This is Global Toronto. Global News at 6 starts right now.
You are looking at a live shot over Bloor Street and Avenue Road, where thousands of truckers converged today to spread their message of frustration over COVID-19 vaccine mandates and restrictions. Truckers from all across the Greater Toronto Area met this morning in a number of locations before making their way downtown for their protest, which has caused chaos on Toronto's streets and surrounding highways. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Mark Carcassole, and today's protest at Queen's Park did not turn out as expected. Thousands of demonstrators showed up, but they were not able to drive to the legislature because the roads had been blocked by police. Let's go live now to Global's Sean O'Shea, who has been in the thick of things all day. Sean, fill us in on what's been taking place today.
Mark, good evening. You're right. Thousands of people did, in fact, show up here today. There were thousands indeed. The trucks, though, could not get through. They couldn't get through here because police had shut down all the roads leading to Queen's Park, where we are right now, at Queen's Park Circle and Grosvenor. But the protesters were here, and they gave their message.
Do you take your freedom back?
I get to choose what goes in my body, not you, not the mainstream media, okay? Freedom right here.
Protesters making their point, like this man carrying an oversized syringe.
Yeah, this booster's for Justin Trudeau.
Trudeau's been vaccinated 3 times. He's got COVID. That should tell you what's happening.
Or the man with the large mask.
This is what the future is going to look like.
What was supposed to be a protest convoy of trucks at Queen's Park couldn't get here as originally planned. Road restrictions prevented that, although some trucks and supporters made it to Avenue Road and Bloor Street. Police told truckers they could get together far away from downtown Toronto, and they did, in shopping mall parking lots. It left most protesters opposing vaccination mandates to make the trip here on foot.
Going too far has its extreme consequences. We see that now.
They expressed doubt about the value of vaccinations, proven by medical science to reduce deaths and serious illness from COVID.
But if these public health measures were effective, as they're being told to, we would see bigger effects in the data.
And those supporting vaccinations were here too.
Everybody cares about the same thing. People want to see health care being delivered when it's needed, where it's needed.
Counter-protesters came to support healthcare workers.
There are definitely some very rigid opinions. Maybe I have one too, but I feel like I'm listening to public health experts.
Some on both sides faced off.
This type of protest occurs to me as part of the problem, not part of the solution.
Science, they say, is what to follow.
Beyond internet guy typing furiously and getting angry.
Everybody just wants peace. We want clean water.
Anger at journalists again in evidence here. This man calling for journalists to be put on trial and killed.
After your convictions, your executions cannot come soon enough. You are the enemy of the people. You're the vile liars. The message is, you guys are the problem.
Anti-media, anti-government, anti-mandates, 3 pillars of these protesters who succeeded to get their message out, but for the most part, not getting their trucks in. So many uniformed and non-uniformed police officers here on the streets all around Queen's Park, but just one arrest. A 22-year-old was arrested in the northern part of Queen's Park, just north of the Legislative Building, and he was charged with 3 charges, including assault. Mark?
Sean, you were at the protests last weekend in Ottawa, which are going on for a second weekend now and have spread out to other cities like Toronto and others around the country. How does the gathering in Toronto today compare to last week's in Ottawa?
Similarities, Mark, festive, kind of party-like in Ottawa and here today for the most part. But as you can hear probably in the background, a lot of people yelling various expletives at the media, which was going on all day. But the reality is that... Are you going to tell the truth, or are you going to lie again about what's happening? You're getting a pretty good sense of what people were saying all day here. So people trying to get their message across about vaccinations. And we listened and we broadcast what they had to say, but what you're hearing is it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you report, this is what you get from people at this protest today. Mark?
All right, that's Global's Sean O'Shea reporting live at Queen's Park tonight. Thanks for doing your job, Sean. Today's protest impacted businesses, emergency runs to hospitals, even forced the closure of some streets. And this has upset many around the city. Global's Morgan Campbell is live on Bloor Street with that side of the story tonight. Morgan.
Well, Mark, I'm here at Bloor and Bedford, and you can actually see right here behind me some transport trucks are parked. There's been just continuous honking. We've actually decided to stay back a bit because the situation inside is somewhat volatile. Now, you take a look now, and there seems to be fewer people, but it appears they may be making it a bit closer to Queen's Park. Let's have a look at what things looked like earlier today. It was a scene commuters were dreading. Bloor Street flooded with vehicles and demonstrators holding signs and Canadian flags as they walked onwards to Queen's Park.
I'm here standing for everyone. No discrimination, no division. That's what I believe in.
Really, really outrageous.
This just one of a number of streets and highways closed down due to the protests. Demonstrators are still gathered in Ottawa and say they don't plan to go anywhere until they meet with the federal government, primarily the Prime Minister. Here in Toronto, the crowds grew throughout the day.
What I worry about is this series of protests for the truckers has been so negative and so closely associated with negative factions of society that, in fact, rather than it turning into a citizens movement, it may actually alienate people.
Trying to stay truthful.
Many took aim at mainstream media, condemning news coverage.
Shame on the news! All your fake news!
I think the rest of the population is watching this with pretty significant interest and concern.
Jeffrey Dvorkin says the attack on mainstream media is coupled with a breakdown in public trust due to changing public health measures locally, federally, and provincially.
So what we're seeing is a lot of disinformation being spread, sometimes deliberately, sometimes inadvertently, but that's the problem.
Meanwhile, those on the streets are asking government officials for just one thing.
If we also do not want to get the vaccine, we should be respected.
So these are some of the trucks that made it to the corner of Bedford and Bloor. That's about as close as they have gotten to Queen's Park. At this point, Bloor remains closed. And really, Mark, if anybody's trying to come into the downtown core this evening, it's probably best that you do not. There is all kinds of traffic down here, blocked off roads, and it's quite busy. And of course, a lot of different demonstrators here. At the end of the day, it's really unclear how long people are going to remain here, but Toronto's police chief has made it quite clear that he does not want to see a repeat of what we're experiencing right now at Parliament Hill. Mark?
All right, also seems very loud there right now, Morgan. That's Global's Morgan Campbell reporting for us tonight. Thanks a lot. And speaking of COVID-19, here are the latest numbers in Ontario. Provincial officials are reporting just under 2,500 hospitalizations today. That is a decrease of almost 1,000 from last Saturday, and it's down 141 from yesterday. 501 patients are currently in intensive care due to the virus. 59 new deaths were also reported today, those all occurring not today or yesterday, but over the last month. Today's case count is 3,204, although the actual number is believed to be much higher due to testing limitations in Ontario. For a full breakdown of all the COVID-19 information you need, you can log on to our website at globalnews.ca.
You know, there's a lot of other stories in the news, but the vaccination effort goes on.
Meanwhile, Mayor John Tory visited a vaccine clinic at a Toronto community housing building in the west end of the city. TCHC buildings have now hosted more than 500 clinics since the vaccination initiative started. Workers go door to door, approaching all tenants in each complex to inform them about the opportunity. If people are unable to make it downstairs to the clinic but for whatever reason but want a shot, staff and volunteers will bring the vaccine to them.
Our objective has been to leave nobody behind when it comes to the vaccinations. And that is why, as a city, we have achieved the extraordinary results we have. And that's thanks to the people that have got vaccinated as well as the team delivering the vaccines.
Now, so far, over 90% of Torontonians have received at least a first dose of a vaccine. Just under 90% have been given 2 doses. More than 60% have received a booster shot. And 54% of children aged 5 to 11 have also got their shots. Let's switch gears now and take a first look at the forecast, shall we? For that, let's bring in weather specialist Carla Bosacki. Hey, Carla.
Thanks, Mark. Well, it was a gorgeous day. Here's a look at the skyline right now. You can see the sun. It is starting to set. -9 is what we're sitting at. The winds now coming in from the south-southeast. Temperatures right now minus 15 in Ottawa, minus 14 in Muskoka, Kingston sitting at minus 11. This is what it's feeling like out there. Ottawa really is still dealing with that bitterly cold air overhead. There is nothing overhead as far as clouds go, as you can see on our pinpoint radar. Our lows tonight, minus 10 in Windsor, London, Toronto, minus 12, Peterborough, minus 21, and minus 24 through the Ottawa region. We've got some milder air on the way and some gusty winds for your Sunday. Your 7-day forecast is ahead.
All right, thanks a lot, Carla. The protest in Toronto, as mentioned earlier, is not the only one today. In fact, they are being held in solidarity in many parts all across the country, including in Ottawa, where thousands remain for a second weekend in a row demanding an end to federal COVID-19 measures. Global's Mike Drolet has the latest from Parliament Hill.
It's been a week since protesters took to the streets here in Ottawa. Residents who've been living with the constant blaring of horns want them gone. But the protesters that remain appear to be digging in, bringing in saunas and ice huts to stay warm. It appeared for a moment their funding would be cut off. GoFundMe decided the protests had morphed into an occupation and froze the remaining $9 million that had been raised. Within hours, organizers had another option, a Christian fundraising site that gained notoriety for raising funds for the protesters that stormed the U.S. Capitol. By midday, they'd already topped $1 million. The crowds aren't as big as they were a week ago, but the protesters that did show up are steadfast in their beliefs and well-resourced. Mike Drolet, Global News, Ottawa.